you're a therapist. Exactly, but that title entails of you pretty much have a practice, right? Can you share with the viewers, what that's all about and how, how that came about and pretty much the whole nine yards?
Yeah, man. So I've always wanted to be a therapist. That's kind of like been my goal. When I was in school, I ended up, again, like when we talk about Hunter's Point, going all the way back to all that stuff, right? Hey, nobody coming out of Hunter's Point clean, untainted. You know, you coming out of Hunter's Point with a couple of bruises, right? And to me, bruises are like trauma, right? You're gonna come out with something, right? You either seen like a shooting, you either probably experienced like some domestic violence, you either like went through extreme poverty or something like that, right? So when I got to college, when things are really just cool and peaceful, all the trauma started coming back up, and then I ended up going to my first therapy session, right? When I got into that therapy session, I was like, I want to be a therapist, like I absolutely fell in love with it, right? And I just started just like turning the wheels on that, putting motion in place, right? Just kind of getting things moving. And I slowly but surely was just trying to figure out how to do it. And that's why when I went back to school to go get my master's, a buddy of mine was like, "Yeah, you should go become a social worker because with a social worker you could still be a therapist and you could work like in many other different places versus going and getting like an MFT degree, which is a marriage family therapist degree." But that's what I did. Went to school, that's when I learned about social work, but really I was just trying to become a therapist, right? That's where I learned about politics, learned about policies, and when I got out of grad school, I got my degree because in order for you to be a therapist, you have to have either a LCSW, a MFT, PsyD, or MD. Those are or PhD. Those are the only five degrees that allows you to become a therapist, right? So I took the MSW route, right? So I got my MSW, and then from there, you got to get 3,000 clinical hours, and then you have to be able to test. And once you pass your test, then they grant you with the LCSW license, which is a licensed clinical social worker. So I was able to complete all of those, after grad school. And once I got off the school board, I was done with all 3,000 of my hours because I was on the school board and I was also like, still working in the community doing crisis work. So by the time I was done, I was able to accumulate 3,000 hours. I tested a couple of months after the school board and I passed my test, And so I passed my test. I got licensed as a clinical social worker. And then what I did was for the first kind of like 2 years, I went and I joined this group practice down in Campbell called Campbell Teen and Family Therapy, right? Great place, right? And they specialize in eating disorders, right? And so I sat under them for like 2 years. I got some training, learned how to, work with eating disorders. And then after that, I went on my own, right? So I've been doing my own solo practice since April 2023, right? April 2023. It's not been a year yet. It's practice it's been really, by the grace of God, it's been super successful. We've already hit six figures in in income, in our profits, and it's just continuing to grow. So I have two offices currently. I have an office in Burlingame, California, and also in San Francisco, California. I do family therapy in homes, so I go to people's homes if they need me to, right? Or they can come to the office, or we do virtual, right? So I do in homes, virtuals, and in office, and I also see couples and individuals. And really, my work is around trauma. I provide clients with work around trauma, whether it's family trauma, individual trauma, couples trauma. I provide them with that service. And so I'm trained in EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization, reprocessing, right? And then also um, parts work, which is internal family systems, right? These are all like different modalities to treat trauma. And then I'm also trained in mindfulness meditation. But yeah, so we're going on, I think 9 months now, maybe nine. Yeah, my 9 months now. Super proud, super happy. The growth of the practice, right? We're doing pretty good. And I say we because again, it's not just me; it's just me and all the people who are supporting the movement. Um, but yeah, so therapy is great. So my thing is, that's the other thing for our folks. Folks need to get their mental health going. a lot of our community is experiencing high mental health, which you'll see a lot of like substance abuse, you'll see a lot of like, depression, eating disorders, anger, and just all sorts of stuff within our community, right? So, highly recommend that people, get involved in taking care of their mental health.
And now is this only practices that it only covers the what is it, the area of San Francisco? Your practice, or are you able to do outpatients like somebody like Puni Moore from Kentucky to be a, if I'm seeking counsel or
Well,
therapist?
so the license, got it. So the license only covers California. So
Hmm.
at this moment, I can only practice in California, or I can only see patients in California, right?
Okay, the whole state of California, north and south.
So I have clients
Nice.
all up and down California. I got clients in LA, I got clients in Sacramento, San Francisco, everywhere, right?
Mm,
Um, but if you want to practice, if you want to see clients in a different state, then you have to pass the licensing exam in that state. So like
got
Kentucky,
you.
Washington, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Are you planning to expand your practice, or you just focus on just California at the moment?
Right now, I do have my eyes set on Hawaii, and being able to get into Hawaii because Hawaii actually I think is the gateway to American Samoa. So,
Mm,
and the cool thing about Hawaii is it really is just a matter of an application, right? From my understanding, right? So, I hope to
nice.
get it done by the end of the year. Yeah.
What are some of the challenges when you first started this, and how did you go about that? How did you find your building, and then able to do virtual? What are the challenges that you're facing? You know what I'm saying? As somebody looking to become a what you are right now.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I feel like, even till today, there's still challenges just being like a startup company,
Hmm.
and just like learning the ropes. I think it makes it even a little bit more challenging when you're Samoan. I don't know of any other Samoan therapists um, in the Bay Area. I'm just thinking. Yeah, I don't know of any other Samoan therapists who has a private practice or practicing in the Bay Area because the clinical work on my end is one thing, but now you're an entrepreneur, right? And so there's the clinical. On top of that, there's the business, right? And so the business piece is the piece that like you got to kind of keep up with, the billing, locating office spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the startup is always difficult. I think the other thing about like being a therapist is the legalities that come with it, right? Like me, I'm a huge stickler around the law and being like, following regulations and being on top of those things, right? And so, understanding like areas of like, where you could potentially like be sued, you know. And so I definitely have a lawyer. I got a lawyer who like I lean on. I made sure, I have all my insurance is in place, general liability insurance, to make sure that you're covered because like when you have a business, if you get sued, that potentially could just be they could sue you for everything you have, right? And so you have to like kind of carry that. And so that sometimes could be like, a monkey on your back, until you kind of get it down. And a lot of this stuff, the challenges is because you just don't know, right? And
Yes.
so the work is actually going out there and trying to figure it out, you know? And so as I like, get get more information and meet more people, with the office, I mean, again, it was really a matter of just like hearsay and people like, oh yeah, they have an office down there, you should go check it out. And then a buddy of mine's in Burlingame, she's like, yeah, I got an office, we should partner up. That's pretty much what it was, nothing special about it, right? But then all those informal kind of like meetings led to like now you got an office in San Francisco and in Burlingame, right? But it's always a challenge, and then just kind of keeping up with the schedule, keeping up with the schedule, the paperwork stuff, the administrative stuff that comes with running a business, the taxes, right? It's tax season coming up, so you got to get all that stuff down, right? But I tell myself just expect all that to be like that for like the next 3 years. Right. So like for me, 3 years of just like learning and building is what I'm doing right now. And then the last thing I feel like, as a startup is when you're running your own company, you have to go out there and like, promote and do marketing, right?
Hmm.
So attract more customers, right? Like I have 100% confidence in my work, But, how are the people going to know that you could do the work? And how are you going to convince them that, you are the person, right? Especially if nobody knows you out there, right?
Exactly.
So, so the marketing piece was huge, so that was like one thing. And luckily, I was on the school board and I was in politics. So I kind of like got all of the, because when you're in politics, you're just out there, right?
Networking, you know a lot of people.
You know a lot of people, but you have to put yourself out there. So I got used to just kind of putting myself out there, you know. So that kind of helped. And now the practice is rolling. It's not perfect, but I feel like it's headed in a good direction. Got good support. We got our offices and stuff down packed. We got our systems rolling. We got our billing down, and I feel good about 2024. Now we're just gonna try to continue to work on our goals. And see where it goes from there.
And what is the name of the practice? And where, people that are tuning in, where can they find you at, especially the ones that are in California?
Yeah, the practice is it's my name, Faauuga Moliga Puletasi Youth and Family Therapy. If you're in search, if you're looking for it, if you're in California, you could just Google my name, Faauuga Moliga Puletasi Therapy. I would put therapy at the end because if you put it in my name, you probably get a whole bunch of other articles from when I was on the school board. But if you just put in like Faauuga Moliga Puletasi Therapy, my website will pop up and you just click on the website, and you find all the information you need in terms of what services I offer, how to get an appointment, rates, insurance, and all the other things that you need, and how to contact me.
And what about, do you have any like IG or Facebook? Or do you just, your website is where you deal with, you deal with your customers?
Yeah, I'm also actually you can find me on Psychology Today as well. Psychology Today is a portal for therapists and for people researching therapists. You can go on Psychology Today. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook. Not really a social media person. But if you're looking for me, those are the ways you can go. And yeah, that's my website. My website is pretty long. I think it's Faauuga Moliga Puletasi Youth and Family. Go to Google, put in the name.
All right,
It's,
there's one posted right here too
I'm actually
on the
working on
descriptions.
I'm currently in the process of potentially like changing the company name to something shorter.
You mentioned the P3, the Pacific Three strategies. That was part of the educational and the politics side, right? One of the
Yeah, that's
programs.
business. Yeah, I do consulting still. I work with elected officials, business partners, private corporations, and city governments or government agencies on like building partnerships, right?
Okay. Can you emphasize a little bit more about your business on that one?
Yeah. So, if so currently, like I'm doing work with, school districts and private companies who are looking to like build a partnership, right? And so my focus at this moment is really around like mental health and clean energy, right? And so like I help like, companies who are looking to partner with the government, or like school districts around like trying to, um, you know, build up their clean energy, programs or services within their systems, right? Also, like I work with other companies around mental health, helping folks understand how to like build curriculum or going through their curriculums, um, and then just coaching, right? Like I do leadership coaching, so people who are interested. So I have like associate superintendents. I like work with superintendents. I work with like CEOs and other directors and stuff like that. People who are just trying to polish up on like their leadership skills in those areas.
Nice. Now, again, is this just, I'm going to assume that this is only for the state or the city of San Francisco. It has not, for the moment.
No, so that consultant it's actually worldwide. So I
Okay.
do consulting, global wise. So like, I was just in American Samoa, doing some work, right? Going back to American Samoa next month to continue to do some more work, around consulting. Do some consulting on the East Coast, all up and down the state of California, you know. And so the consultant is actually it's global versus the practice which you're licensed to do in one state. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. And do you have a website for this particular business?
I actually don't have a website yet for for the P3
What about
strategies.
the social media?
Yeah, again, I'm not a social media guy. I know a lot of folks out there on social
No,
media.
that's fine. But how are you able to, so you're going through networking, right? Within the so it's by word of mouth for the time being.
That's right. So a lot of my
Nice.
consulting services, people come seek me out. It's business opportunities and network opportunities that that I like, build on my own, through events and stuff like that, and partnerships and relationships.
Okay, so sometimes people do invite you, and that falls under like public speaking.
Yeah, so I do public speaking. That would fall under my consulting.
That falls under the P3 strategies. Yeah, because it's yeah. So it's not only that you're a therapist, you're also like a public speaker, motivational speaker.
That's right.
Have you ever down the road thought about a? Oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I'm sorry. I do conferences. I do like retreats. So I did a retreat. I did my first actual retreat for college for Palo Alto University. I did a retreat for their whole administrative staff. Full day retreat. They asked me like, these are the leadership skills that we want to work on. These are the goals that we want for our team. I put together a curriculum and I run through the curriculum.
Nice. And is it just you, or I'm assuming you have partners that are doing it together? Because you say this is a global
That's
business.
right. So I have partners, right? The business is mine. So if I need to pull in partners, right, I'll pull in partners. I'll invite people to partner on a project.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But there's a network. There's a network of you guys. Is that where the your affiliation with or being a member of the Mason comes into play? Does that one of that?
oh, no, that's completely different. Yeah, Freemasonry is a fraternity. It's the longest
Hmm.
standing fraternity in the history of this world. It goes way back to King Solomon's days. And it's a fraternity that I got into really because of my father-in-law. He's been a Mason for like 33 years now.
Hmm.
And a really good guy. He was asking me, if I wanted to join, you know. And I just kind of liked how he moved. And I was like, all right, this is a cool dude, right? And so I just completed my third degree. I think it was in November, which grants you to be a master mason. And so, yeah, I'm a Freemason. They said George Bush was not George Bush, sorry, Bill Clinton was a Freemason, right? Jay-Z's a Freemason. You know, so there's a lot of our presidents were Freemasons. A lot of the country was built on Freemasonry. King Kalakaua was a Freemason. Um, the Iolani Palace was built by Freemasons, So yeah, that's completely different. That's more of a brotherhood and a fraternity.
Fraternity. Okay. And what is the benefit of being part of the Masons, and what has it done since you've been a part of them or members of them that was able to impact and help the community? Because I'm assuming Mason has a lot to do with the community too, and also just to yeah, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the thing I enjoy about being a Freemason is the principles and like the things that we practice in regards to like becoming better people, you know? I really enjoy that, right? There's lessons and teachings that like all the Freemasons have to like go through and learn, which to me like really it helps like with things around like building character, we align in things of like integrity, honesty, and transparency, and supporting each other in whatever way we can. And I like the brotherhood about it and how we support each other. I also like the mission, or the community work. They go out, they help out in areas of education, they help out in areas of like we do food banks. We'll go to food banks and like we give out scholarships for students who are going to school. So it's a lot of good community work out of the Freemasonry as well. But for me, it's about the brotherhood, the lessons that you learn, being a Freemasonry, how they keep you grounded, and then also the community service that it does.
Are there any other Polynesians besides Samoans in this you know brotherhood, the Mason?
Yeah, I imagine there are. There's a lodge that was in American Samoa. It's not active anymore. But I imagine there's probably more Samoans and Pacific Islander Freemasons out there. There's a few lodges in Hawaii. There's a few lodges in Hawaii, and I'm pretty sure there's more Pacific Islanders in those lodges. Um, but if people are interested in becoming a Freemason, you just want to like find your local lodges in your area, see if there's any local lodges in your area, and then just attend meetings and just start asking questions and getting curious, you know. And the brothers in those lodges will help guide you through the process.
I'm assuming there is a certain resume that you have to have with you, like a athlete that you're supposed to have, qualifications to become a
No.
member, or somebody that, let's just say, that don't even have any kind of a stay-home mom or a couch warrior. Can they become a Mason?
Yeah, there's no requirements. There is a
Mm,
process, there's an application process that you have to go through, right? But there are no requirements to apply to become a Freemason.
gotcha. Wow, that's interesting. How long have you been a part of this Mason
About three
group?
years.
About 3 years. You hear when you hear the word Mason, you also hear the Illuminati tends to go right next to it. What's your take on that? Have you witnessed anything like that? The Illuminati, where you guys are all like dressed up? Because you said this is back then, the Mason. Do you guys have to wear robes and stuff? And you guys are like in a temple where you guys are kind of like King Arthur in a round table kind of like thing? I don't know. I'm just asking you. I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah, there's all kind of like conspiracies out there
Yeah, there's conspiracies on it. Yep.
about most things, and it's like I think I've heard of that Illuminati one before, and
Hmm.
I feel like, people are gonna make assumptions of anything. But from my experience, it's been a pretty good brotherhood. There's a formal attire, that folks wear at times, when we're attending meetings. It's a pretty formal event. It always kind of reminds me of the Faauuga sometimes. It's Faauuga, they call it Mamadu, right? It's
Hmm.
very, very clean, very respectful, very traditional, And so, yeah, that's been my experience so far, being a part of the Brotherhood.
Mm. And I'm assuming you guys have your guys' own like secrecy stuff that that the outside world, unless you're a member, you'll know about, or plans like that.
Yeah, and like most organizations, right? There's
Yeah,
things
it's just like
that,
any being a part of a club.
of
The
course.
benefits. What are some of the benefits that you being a part of it? Sometimes if you're a member, you can go, like you said. There's a few of them in Hawaii, so you can. What is it like a? I think a lot of the Mason places are like just halls, right? Bars, or I know some one churches, at least the ones I've been to, or was used to go to, was using the Mason halls, and some of them were like the retire buildings to do ministry, use it as a place of worship. It was a lot affordable for our community of Polynesians. So, is that the kind of Mason that I'm assuming that you're in? The one that had those buildings, a lot of the real estate, I'm saying.
That's correct. Yeah, Freemasonry, again, like Freemasonry, part of the history of it was, your masonries, people who
Hmm.
were construction workers, builders, right? And so, you'll see a lot of the buildings today, especially if you go to Washington, D.C., right? You'll see like the Mason emblem on like the buildings, right? And so, I mean, the benefits to me, again, like what I've enjoyed is, the brotherhood, and then also, once you are a master mason, you can actually go to any lodge in the whole world, you know, and
Mm.
once you're a brother everywhere. Like I was somebody saw me somewhere in South San Francisco. Somebody saw me, and I had my mason pin on, and they
Hmm.
walked up to me and was like, "Hey, I'm brother so and so from Mason Lodge, so and so." Just wanted to greet you. That was cool. It's like, okay. And it's if you're like in a different country and you're stranded, or if you need any help or anything, or if, you can always call up a Mason brother, that where we always show up for each other and help each other out.
So it's almost like a version of you guys are sort of Mason. In other words, almost like a more formal way of how you have the bike clubs, the car clubs, depending what you're into. Versus Mason is more of like a lot of people that into politics, into I wouldn't say power of, well, yeah, let's just be honest, into power and taking leadership in the whatever land or country you're in. You know what I'm saying? The interest of a Mason club is in that kind of scope, if that makes any sense. Am I correct?
Yeah, let me say this. We're not into politics. Masons is not about politics, right?
Hmm.
Although there's been a lot of politicians who have become Freemasons, the Freemasons is about God, your family, and service. Those are the pillars of Freemasonry.
Mm.
God, your family, and your service, but always making sure that you prioritize your family.
And that's nice. Okay. And for those that do want to join, I'm assuming they just Google it. You guys are all over the place because Mason is known, right?
Yeah, you can find your local lodge. You go in there and talk
Mhm.
to a brother. They'll let you know when they're having events, and you just start showing up to events, and then letting people know you're interested, and then from there they'll provide you with more information on how the process works.
It's a little bit interesting when it comes to a chief from Mangua. Can you go ahead and share with our listeners? Because, especially for my non Samoan or Polynesians, Samoa is just like the Philippines and Tonga. It has its own, and Hawaii. There are different islands, right? Even though we're called Samoa. Believe it or not, there is an American Samoa and there is Samoa, which back then used to be called Western Samoa that falls under Upolu and Savai. Well, for Fotuali'i here, he is a descendant from the American Samoa district or island, and there are one of the islands out there is Manua that are split into like I believe four islands or five. I could be wrong. Anyways, you fall under the Falau Sao village or one of the Falakolus out there. Can you go ahead and break that or just share with the viewers a quick ceremonial? It's a different kind. I don't know now that it might if it's the same as Upolu. You know how they or Kukuila how they present or have a Makai be announced in their family, because we're so used to, at least for me growing up, used to being around our older folks, and they'll be like after a gathering, it could be Thanksgiving, it could be anything, a holiday, and then the older ones will be like blessing one of our guys to be the next chief within the state. Now, in America, you can do that, but when it comes to having like, like an official title and have a say so, like we're going back to politics. You just came back from Mangua because you just went to the ceremony where you have now been officially bestowed the title name of Fotuali'i. First of all, I want to say congratulations. I'm very proud of you for doing what you did. Wish I was there. And then, yeah, man, the table's yours.
Really, really, it's funny because like we went on this trip, and I would ask Santi Poco a question, and it'll take her 45 minutes to explain the answer, right? And as you're asking me this question, I'm noticing like I'm doing the same thing she's doing, right? Like she just starts from the beginning and she's like, well, in order for me to answer this question, I have to like tell you what happened. Like this was my experience and this is the context, right? So that's kind of like how I'm gonna roll this out if you don't mind me. So,
That's fine.
when my grandfather died, my father, my uncle, and my other uncle, they asked me to become a chief on my dad's side, my grandfather's side, right? Never, they pulled me over. They were like, "Hey," sat me down. This is like right, like in the middle of the funeral. With all due respect, I need to have a conversation with my mother because this is the side I kind of grew up on. So I did that. Got on the phone. She didn't really sound like she wanted me to do it. She said it in her own indirect way. And I kind of just took that as like, all right, my mom, she doesn't really want me to do it. Shared that with those guys. Part of me also was like, man, it was like the way like my dad was trying to get me to do it. He was like, oh, you just be a Makai here, like it didn't sound like it had too much integrity around it. And for me, that was important. Like if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna need to do it for my mamalu, right? It was more like, oh, just do it because you can get some of this land, or you could like do this and that. Like I wasn't really into all that, right? I was into doing it the right way. So that, in addition to like my mom not really being a part of it, I like put that to the side, right? It's like, all right, let's put that to the side. So then my mom was like, all right, well, Uncle wants you guys to be Makais on this side of the family. I was like, all right. We went up there to Seattle to see him. He was sick. He was like, let's wait until when those guys are here. We can have a conversation. So I was like, all right. And it was just taking a while. 1 year passed, another year passed, right? And uncle passed away on grandma's side, right? So now we're talking about grandma's side. And one of the uncles came up to me and was like, man, go away Makai la live because it ain't Makai go there's no Makais on this side, right? Like there hasn't been a Makai on this side, and we need a Makai for you guys on this side. one of the things that like I think it's important for me to say is like me, I'm kind of like I go to where I feel like I'm needed. If I need to be here, like no, we need you to be here, then that's where I'm gonna go. Even if it's not like the most popular thing to do, right? I'm gonna go to where like I'm actually needed to like serve at that time, you know? And so for me, I felt that. I was like, I feel like I need to be here with these guys right now, right? Mind you, yeah, I haven't been around the family all that much on this side, right? So then I go to one of the to the Faauuga, and I met the family. It's like, oh, these people are cool, man. They're really nice. Really, you know, like I shared with you, like kind of remind me of my cousin Kenny. Like really jolly people, really cool people, right? And so I did my thing, went to praying. Then I talked to my mom about it, and her and Auntie guys all kind of seemed very kind of like, right? They were like, oh, they were surprised, but also very supportive of the whole thing. And then that kind of opened up a whole can of like direction towards, their grandfather. I guess it was something that like, was kind of closed off. But then, when I came in and we started having this conversation, it reopened that whole thing for them. And you could just see it in their faces like, oh my gosh, really? It was like, okay, that's, and then they had all these stories about that side, right? And so, like, in my heart, I was like, okay, this seems like the right thing to do. Mind you, here's a family out here, our family, they're already organized. Oh, actually, back in the days when my mom and Antonio used to live in San Francisco, if I met Alaco, they do their stuff together, right? But like my mom said, like right now we're replanting the seeds, because once they left, it kind of broke off. So all that to say, I called Uncle back. I was like, all right. I talked to my mom and them, and everybody said it's okay. And those guys called and are like, all right, let's do it. But they wanted me to go under the name Kumangabao, which is our great grandfather. Funeral ends. We're all sitting down, all the family. So Pule's there, the Sao of the family's here, which is why they was like, you should do it now while the Sao's here. Like, all right. And then Auntie gets up. She introduces me to the family. She wants them to take me on for that school Mangbao. And they're like, well, we would, but that's a very challenging title at the moment, right? Like it's I guess in Mamafale, it's Wafa, there's a lot to it, right? So they granted me with the title Fotuali'i instead. So then I became Fotuali'i, but from my understanding, yeah, your title is not really Mamalu is not really official until you go into the village, one, and then it's not really official until you buy Faauuga, two, right? So when I got the title, it really is if I met kung lainga, that's what from my understanding, you just do things within the family, And so I was, that's kind of where I was at. I've always wanted to go back home to go, for me, I always want to do things the right way, and do things the way that like our ancestors did it, right? And so, one day we got a call from the Sao, and he was like, the Pai Falula is coming up. You guys should come to it. You guys should all show Ulu Apukungu. I was like, all right. When is it? It's in a couple of months. That didn't happen. Then they pushed it back. And then finally we figured out the final date. But luckily, what I've been doing since I found out was I just been slowly just planning. I just been planning, saving up, putting money to the side, because it's a big trip, right? I knew it was going to cost a lot, And so all that said and done, fast forward, the Pai Faliula happened on December 30th. We ulu'd into the village December 29th, right? We got to American Samoa December 28th. I took my wife, my mother, and I took Auntie Tibulas, right? I knew Auntie was going to be important because I knew she understood the family, right? So she was important to take. My mother, I wanted to take her because she was my mother, and I was her, that's where she's from. And that's just important to me. And then my wife, I always take my wife everywhere I go. Any big moment, I always want my wife right next to me. I wanted to take the kids, but it was a little bit too expensive. In regards to the Matai stuff, like again, like I didn't grow up in Mahua. I was never on Manga. So I'm not really familiar with all the traditions and the things that go into it. But I'm always the kind of person who's like, well, I'm not going to let that stop what God is telling me to do. I'm just going to go in there and learn it and figure it out as we go. So here we go, right? So I say that because I'm learning all this, Angalu stuff as we kind of like move along, right? And so I'm going to share based off of like the information that I've gathered so far in regards to like how the Matai system works. But there are other like people in our family for sure. Like we have brothers like Usos like who actually are Mangad in Mongwa. And you know, being an Almanga is very important because Almangas actually are around all of the ceremonial stuff. They're there. They're actually co-going to the family. So they actually understand a lot of this stuff. They could probably break down this stuff in a way that I probably in a different way from what I can offer today. I'm a high chief. It's a Kamali'i name. And so Kamali'i is a high chief. And so really Kamali'is, you have like a Kula Fale. A Kula Fale is really people who speak for you. Kamali'i are really like decision makers and they help like move the direction of the family decisions when it's happening. Kula Fale is really they speak for the family, you know, during family functions. If there's no Kula Fale, my title, it plays as a Kamali'i and a Kula Fale. There's a name to it. I think it's called Ko'oli. I think it's called Ko'oli or Elite Ko'ko, something like that, right? So I wear two hats. So if there's no Kula Fale, I have to step in. So there's a funeral that we're working on, you know, in our family currently where we don't have a Kula Fale and the Sa'o's coming. So I'm going to be stepping in as the Kula Fale and speaking for that funeral. So that's kind of just like the logistical stuff. But then what I learned, which I thought was pretty cool, was like, you know, so when we first get to Mangua, the ceremony in itself was like, I think there was only like three other things in my life that I thought really matched that energy. Like the birth of my firstborn, my wedding, the graduation from high school, and then this ceremony right here. These are like really impactful. And Tiko told me later that the place that actually Aiulukomu, that's where actually Grandma Faye and Grandpa Kumangvao actually got married. Just mind blowing all the way around, just super mind blowing. But you know, you go in there and you sit in a section. They call it a bow section, you know. And so the section that I sat in is Makakao. So my group is Makakao, right? And there's other little sections. Mao, this is Faauuga. There's Ali'i Nafa. And then there's a section where Asawayo sits. Asawayo is like the highest chief of Faauuga. And then there's one more section. Okay? So without getting through all the logistics, the cool thing that I learned was once you are now officially a chief. You know, you are recognized by the village. You can sit in on village meetings, anything that pertains to like things that come out of the village, you know, you have a say in how that operates, right? Which I thought was pretty cool. It almost reminded me of politics, right? The other thing that I thought was really cool and I learned a little later was once you become a chief, you are then you can actually get appointed to become part of the Senate out there in American Samoa, you know. But I think you have to be like a tamale though, all right? Which I didn't even know. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, so one of our good friends, he is now like, you know, in the Senate. He's one of the senators from Malua, right? And I had a conversation with him, and he was the one explaining it to me. He was like, yeah, once you're a chief, Tamali, you could be appointed by the other chiefs to be the senator of the island, which I thought was super cool, right? You know, me being interested in politics. And then also, like, you know, as a chief, you get to like decide who gets appointed, you know, and who gets to go represent Monua in the forum, which I also thought was really cool, right? The Pai Faauuga then that right there was like so this meeting really doesn't happen that often, you know, which is another reason why like when I heard about it, I was like, all right, they said, yeah, these meetings don't happen. I remember Uncle Sepula saying, yeah, he didn't touch Pai Faauuga for 10 years. He said it took 10 years for the meeting to happen. So back in my head, I was like, that's gonna be way too long. Plus I was trying to get my mom there while she was still healthy and has a lot of energy, you know. So I was like, all right, we gotta go, right? It's gonna cost what it costs, but we're gonna go, right? And so Pai Faauuga, from what I was told during our meeting, was it's the meeting that Tui Manua himself ordained chiefs back in the days. It's the official ordainment of chiefs. So if you wanted to become a chief, you had to go through the Pai Faauuga, which was Tui Manua's ceremonial ordainment of Matais, right? It's the same tradition that we've carried on from what Tui Manua is doing today to officialize and memorialize chiefs, right? So you can go into the village, but then you'll only be recognized in your own village. You won't be recognized in like the whole entire like Faauuga, anywhere else, right? But once you fight Faauuga, your Matai title is now officially memorialized and legit anywhere you go. In Faauuga, Kukuila Polu, anywhere you go. So now that you fight Faauuga, all the ceremonies that occur, all the ceremonies that occur, you are now able to like speak on behalf of like your family, kalisuas, do all that stuff, funerals, birthdays, weddings, everything, stuff in the village and everything. If you don't buy Faauuga, technically you're not supposed to be doing any of that stuff. So I thought it was really cool. And for me, the important piece around that, so again, remember like I was talking about with my company, the important thing to me was the stuff around the legalities, right? Like making sure that we're legally in the right place. And for me, this is the same thing, right? Like I want to make sure that like everything is legit before I go out here and like really start to become a chief. I don't want to break no laws. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to like, go through any red tape or anything like that. Like I want to know that I finished all the requirements that is needed to do the job. And so now I feel like, I've been able to like complete that in, put it to rest. And now I feel like I can move forward and like continue like to do the work, in a way where now like, representing our family, it's like, okay, well, like and so, yeah, when we're up there representing, we're representing like the whole entire family. And so that makes me kind of proud when I was in the Pai Faauuga, which was actually really, really, again, super, super dope. Right. I was a little sad because I was looking around and I was like, man, where are all our grandparents' seats? Right. Like we're not here, which to me, I was like, okay, we have to get into place so that we can like continue the legacy. Until you do those kind of things, in our culture, it's really not recognized. Your family's not recognized, right? Your family's not recognized. You're not recognized. Your family's not recognized. That's really what it is. Your family's not recognized. So that was like one of the things. Now that we got it done, we can say that we buy Faauuga, and we can continue on with like the work that needs to be done for our family. And there's probably a bunch of other stuff that goes into being Makai, that comes with it that I'm still kind of learning as we go. But for me, like those are like the pointers that I took from it.
Nice. And then real quick, I got 5 more minutes left with you. You said it was about 50 of y'all that showed up. I want the listeners to see that it wasn't just you going over there. It's a ceremonial thing. It was about 50 of you guys, right?
Yeah, there was a group of people there. We had a great time, and it was really awesome too, just being there with our cousins, and then also just sitting there seeing all our other uncles, and people were just really proud, right?
Was there
But
any
yeah,
like village dancing? You know how you see on TV when it comes to like other nationalities, when they do celebration, you have like the women. Were the women doing something different and the men were doing something different? I know when it came to bestowing the title, you guys had to block the women outside or the kids too. What was going on that side?
yeah. So traditionally, Mongua, like women are not allowed to become Matais anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand is, they stopped that after Tui Manua, who was a woman. So we used to have a Tui Manua who was a woman. They said that something tragic happened to her. Like I guess she burned or something. They don't know. And they, potentially there was a curse, and this is just hearsay, right? And so from then on, they said they banned, women from becoming Matais. It used to be a
Wow.
thing. Now it's not a thing. So, but in the Matai culture, or in the Mongol culture, or in the Pai Faauuga, yeah, it's all run by men. So all the Faauugas, the Kainga, everything is run by the men. There's a boundary that you're unable to cross. They set the boundaries on two sides of the Malaikele, and people are supposed to honor those boundaries, and no one is able to come in after that. You cannot come into the Pai Faauuga unless you're part of that chief group or you're on a manga that's working, and that everyone else is like kind of like on the outskirts, just kind of waiting for it to end. When you do in the Ngulu, when you're going into the Ngulu, it's not as like protected. You can watch women can be involved in there, right? But again, all of it is run by men. The Ava, everything. It's all run by the men.
Interesting. Yeah, man. So maybe down in the future we'll get you and some other chiefs to I'm really into the Manua side because that's where I'm from. Educating myself too, as far as the culture goes and stuff like that. It's just representing Magua, you know what I mean? Shining some light on our where our parents were from, you know what I'm saying? But for Tuali,
Sure.
man, that's all the questions I have right now. I thank you for allowing me to have this time with you. We went over what I normally like to stay at within an hour because I wanted to cover a lot of stuff. And you're a busy person. I want to make sure I cover everything and get this going, bro. To the listeners, there you have it, man. I don't know about you, but I was well informed. We were talking about politics. We were talking about stuff that I don't know any other coconut that's been through school boards, making a difference in your city. We're talking about cities, man. San Francisco's a big city. I'm pretty sure you was educated and you were entertained. If you want to find out about Fotuali'i, like he said, you can Google him, and then we'll leave more in the description here, man. But brother, thank you for your time, man.
Anytime. Anytime.
Yeah, yep, and we'll talk more. But until then, man, I'm your host, Puni Moore. I got my man Fotuali'i here, and we're out, baby. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Why, Oos?